There are places on Earth where silence has ruled for millennia, where ice stretches beyond comprehension, where no borders exist, officially. But beneath that frozen surface, something is changing. The poles, once considered too hostile, too remote for conquest, are now the most contested territories on the planet. And the race has already begun. For decades, climate scientists warned us about melting ice, rising seas, displaced wildlife. But there was another group watching those glaciers recede: military strategists. Because as the ice disappears, something emerges: new shipping routes, untapped resources, strategic positions that were impossible until now. The Arctic Ocean could be ice-free in summers by 2040. That's not a climate prediction anymore. That's a geopolitical countdown. Beneath the Arctic lies approximately 13% of the world's undiscovered oil and 30% of its natural gas. Rare earth minerals worth trillions. In Antarctica, the numbers are harder to estimate because the Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, forbids resource extraction. But treaties are just paper, and paper burns. This is the new Cold War. Russia has reopened more than 50 Soviet-era military bases across the Arctic, bases that were abandoned when the Cold War ended. China, a nation thousands of miles from polar ice, now calls itself a near-Arctic state. They've built the world's largest fleet of icebreakers. The United States is scrambling to catch up. New submarines designed for under-ice operations. Deepwater ports in Alaska being expanded at unprecedented rates. Norway, Canada, Denmark through Greenland. Everyone is repositioning. This isn't preparation. This is deployment. On Alexandra Land, a remote Arctic island, sits the Nagarskoye base. From the outside, it looks almost peaceful, painted in colorful patterns like a children's toy. But this base can withstand temperatures of -47 degrees Celsius. It houses advanced radar systems, fighter jets, and surface-to-air missiles. Russia calls these bases defensive. But defense against what? Polar bears? The truth is simpler. Control the Arctic. Control the northern sea route. Cut shipping time from Asia to Europe by 40%. Bypass traditional choke points. Geography is destiny. And Russia is redrawing the map. In 2018, China released its Arctic Policy White Paper. One phrase stood out: Polar Silk Road. They've invested billions in Arctic research stations, joint ventures with Russian energy companies, and infrastructure projects across Scandinavia. China doesn't need territory in the Arctic. They need access, influence, a seat at the table when the ice is gone. Their latest icebreaker, the Zhuilong 2, can break through ice nearly 5 feet thick. They're building more. You don't build an icebreaker fleet for research, you build it for presence. The United States has 2 operational icebreakers. 2. Russia has more than 40. The Pentagon knows this is a problem. The Coast Guard has called it a crisis. But icebreakers take a decade to build and cost billions. Meanwhile, America's focus has been elsewhere. The Middle East, the Pacific, counterterrorism, the Arctic was forgotten, until it wasn't. Now, submarine patrols beneath the ice cap have intensified. The USS Connecticut, a nuclear attack submarine, operates in waters where Soviet subs once hunted. The difference is, now everyone can see everyone, and no one is backing down. Antarctica is different. It's governed by the Antarctic Treaty System, a rare moment of international cooperation. No military activities, no resource exploitation, only scientific research. It sounds ideal, peaceful, a frozen sanctuary. But the treaty has a problem. It can be reviewed, modified, or ignored. Countries don't spend billions on Antarctic research stations out of curiosity. They're establishing presence. China now has 5 permanent stations in Antarctica. Russia maintains 9. The United States has 3, including McMurdo, the largest base on the continent. These aren't just labs, they're territorial markers. What most people don't realize is this. Antarctica is an intelligence goldmine. Satellite tracking stations, deep space monitoring facilities, seismic sensors that can detect nuclear tests anywhere on Earth. Some bases are positioned perfectly to monitor missile launches from the southern hemisphere. Others track submarine movements beneath the ice shelves. Official purpose? Science. Actual function? Surveillance. The Antarctic Treaty forbids military bases. It says nothing about dual-use technology. There's something else beneath Antarctica. Lake Vostok, a subglacial lake buried under 2 miles of ice. Scientists want to study it for ancient life forms. Governments want to study it for other reasons. The drilling technology being perfected in Antarctica? It's the same technology that could extract resources, or deploy submersibles, or create subsurface facilities. When the treaty comes up for serious challenge, maybe in 2048, maybe sooner, the nations with the most advanced presence will have the loudest voices. Possession is 9/10 of the law, even on ice. Polar militarization isn't just about bases and borders. It's about redefining warfare itself. Under-ice submarine operations, hypersonic missiles launched from Arctic platforms, cyber warfare conducted from facilities in the Antarctic Peninsula. The poles offer something no other environment does: isolation and access. Far from civilian populations but close to strategic targets. A nuclear submarine can hide beneath Arctic ice for months. Undetectable, invulnerable. In military planning, that's called a strategic advantage. In reality, it's a nightmare scenario. Here's the darkest possibility: weaponizing the ice itself, accelerating glacier collapse in enemy territories, flooding coastal cities, disrupting ocean currents that regulate global climate. Science fiction? Maybe. But the technology exists, and in geopolitics, capability eventually becomes strategy. The poles are the planet's climate engine. Whoever controls them controls the thermostat. What makes polar militarization so dangerous is its invisibility. No headlines, no protests, no public debate, just ice and silence, and nations positioning for a future most people can't imagine. By the time the world notices, the Arctic will have military infrastructure comparable to NATO's eastern flank. Antarctica will have surveillance networks rivaling anything in orbit. And it will all seem inevitable. The poles are melting. That much is certain. But what replaces the ice? Cooperation? Competition? Conflict? Right now, the world's most powerful nations are betting on the latter. They're building bases where no bases should exist, claiming waters that were once impassable, preparing for wars that haven't been declared. Under the ice and over the horizon, the next great power struggle is already underway. Most of us just haven't looked north or south. What do you think happens when the last ice melts? Who really controls the poles? Tell us your theory in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you found this insightful, make sure to like and subscribe for more.